In the early years of the 20th century, Vienna stood as the glittering heart of European art and culture, a city where music drifted through marble halls, and the works of Klimt and Schiele challenged tradition with every brushstroke. It was here, amid the elegance of coffeehouses and the restless hum of modern ideas, that a quiet young man arrived from the small Austrian town of Linz. His name was Adolf Hitler. He was not yet a soldier, nor a politician, nor a figure of history's dread, but a dreamer, clutching a portfolio filled with architectural sketches and watercolor paintings. He walked the same streets as the masters he admired, believing that he too could leave a mark on the canvas of the world. His ambition was not conquest but creation, not power, but recognition. Yet, when he stood before the judges of the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts, the gatekeepers of his future, they saw nothing remarkable, only mediocrity. Twice they rejected him. And in that rejection, something fragile broke. This is not the story of war or politics, not yet. It is the story of a failed artist whose unfulfilled dream would one day cast a shadow over humanity itself. The tragedy of Adolf Hitler did not begin on the battlefield, but in an art studio in Vienna, where the dream of beauty died, and a darker vision began to take its place. The forgotten dream of Adolf Hitler, the artist who never was. In the soft light of a fading afternoon in 1890s Austria, a boy named Adolf sat beside a window, sketching the church tower that loomed above the rooftops of Linz. His pencil moved with quiet precision, tracing the edges of the world he saw, not as it was, but as he imagined it could be. For young Adolf Hitler, art was not a pastime, it was a refuge, a world where order and beauty could be created by the sweep of a hand. His childhood was marked by contradiction. His father, Alois, a strict customs officer, valued obedience and structure. His mother, Clara, gentle and devout, nurtured his dreams with quiet affection. Between them stood the boy, rebellious, idealistic, and searching for purpose. While his father dreamed of seeing him in a government uniform, Adolf longed to hold a paintbrush, not a pen. The tension grew, and so did his desire to escape. When his father died in 1903, Adolf found himself freer, yet more uncertain. He drifted through his teenage years, absorbing the romantic nationalism and mythic grandeur that filled the German-speaking world at the time. Wagner's music enchanted him, its operas painted heroes and gods on vast emotional canvases. The boy who once copied church towers now dreamed of creating entire worlds, through art. At 18, filled with hope and a tattered portfolio of sketches, Hitler boarded a train to Vienna. The city was alive with ideas. Artists debated modernism in coffeehouses, musicians tested the limits of harmony, and philosophers questioned everything. It was the heart of European culture, and for a moment, he believed he belonged there. In 1907, he applied to the Academy of Fine Arts Vienna. He imagined the day they would call his name, the studio he would study in, the future he would build. But the rejection came swiftly. The examiners praised his architectural drawings but dismissed his human figures as lifeless. Too few heads, one professor remarked. He cannot draw people. It was not merely a rejection of talent, it was the destruction of identity. He returned the next year, determined, improved, and desperate. Yet, once again, he failed. 2 rejections, 2 closed doors, and the end of his dream. His mother, his only source of comfort, died of cancer that same year. The double blow left him adrift. He wandered through Vienna, penniless, sleeping in shelters and cheap boarding houses. To survive, he painted small watercolors, postcards of Vienna's landmarks, churches, and streets. Tourists bought them without knowing who the artist was, or who he would become. For nearly 5 years, Hitler lived in the margins of society. His art showed promise but lacked warmth. The man who painted cathedrals and palaces seemed incapable of painting faces. He saw beauty in buildings but not in people. Vienna during those years was a city of contrasts, glittering cafes for the rich, and soup kitchens for the poor. It was also a city of rising ethnic tension, where anti-Semitic rhetoric filled the newspapers and beer halls. The young, frustrated artist began to absorb those ideas, shaping his bitterness into blame. When the First World War erupted in 1914, he left his paints behind and enlisted as a volunteer in the German army. For the first time in years, he felt he belonged somewhere. The discipline of military life gave structure to his chaos. The dreamer of Vienna vanished, replaced by a soldier who believed destiny had finally found him. He was wounded, decorated, and shaped by the camaraderie of the trenches, but also by the humiliation of Germany's defeat in 1918. When the war ended, he returned to Munich, lost once again. Germany was in ruins, its economy shattered, its people divided. In the midst of this chaos, Hitler found a new outlet for his passion, not the canvas, but the crowd. His voice became his new brush, his words the colors with which he painted his vision. In beer halls and meetings, he discovered the power of persuasion. The same intensity he once poured into his art now flowed into his speeches. What began as artistic ambition had transformed into a quest for control, of destiny, of society, of history itself. He replaced the brush with ideology, the canvas with nations, and beauty with dominance. In a grim irony, the man who once dreamed of shaping the world through art began reshaping it through destruction. And yet, history invites a haunting reflection: what if things had been different? What if the Academy of Fine Arts had accepted him? Would the name Adolf Hitler today belong to a painter of quiet cityscapes, remembered only by art historians and collectors? Would his works hang unnoticed in galleries, admired for their technique but forgotten in meaning? Some have studied his surviving paintings, dozens of them still exist today. They show precision, balance, even grace. But they are sterile, devoid of emotion. No human soul stirs within them. Perhaps that absence reveals something deeper: his inability to see humanity, even in his art. The same flaw that kept him from becoming an artist would one day make him the architect of catastrophe. The tragedy of Adolf Hitler is not only the horror he unleashed upon the world but the simple, almost fragile truth that he once wanted to create beauty. It was rejection, isolation, and anger that transformed that dream into obsession. His failure to be accepted by a world of art became his excuse to try to dominate the world of men. In the grand canvas of history, it is chilling to imagine how close humanity came to being shaped by an artist instead of a tyrant. If one door in Vienna had opened differently, the course of the 20th century might have been rewritten. But history, like art, is made of choices, and his were painted in darkness. Somewhere, in another timeline, an elderly Austrian painter might have sat by a window, sketching the same rooftops he loved as a boy. The church tower of Linz would still rise, the river would still flow, and the world would never know the name that became a symbol of destruction. But in our world, his dream died before it began. And from its ashes, a dictator was born.